turn this down, because it's been going off all day. I think I've had 19 phone calls already today. So what iView is it's it's sitting in, I believe, the IT closet on the first floor down here. And it's basically a server. It's what we would call an agnostic server. So it doesn't just do HVAC. It does anything that has a building automation protocol. One of the newest ones or latest ones that's used in the North American market is called BACnet. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that at all. Building automation um, control network is what it stands for. A lot of companies, Carrier, Trane, all the big guys, as well as Johnson Controls, Honeywell, everybody has this BACnet protocol as part of their communication network. And so you can have multiple systems in a building now that all speak to one front end or one access system, okay? Which makes it a lot easier than having to be stuck with one company that's always doing all the service or always providing all the product for a specific building. That's the way it's been for years and years and years. This new protocol language called BACnet has kind of changed all that. So as long as a company has this open protocol, we can do lighting, we can do security, we can do all sorts of things on one front end. And everything can come into one front end. It just makes it easier from a maintenance standpoint. You can look at everything from one computer.
It's basically Skynet.
Yeah, so that's basically, so that's basically what iView is. It's an agnostic server that's sitting in your building, and it can do multiple buildings. We've got them doing entire, campuses. I could put a building in France on this one server over here as long as I can get IP exchange between those two buildings. So it's just basically an Ethernet device that connects to the network, and then we have these things called routers, BACnet routers, that bring the information in from pieces of equipment. So what we have here is that server actually has a couple of things connected to it. Rowell Heating and Air, who did the VRF system, variable refrigerant system, in the basement on the first floor, that control system is basically a standalone control system. You notice all the thermostats in each one of the rooms. So it controls off the thermostats, but what iView does is it integrates to it. It brings in all that information in, the set points, the temperatures, the schedules, all those things, alarms. So now you have one front end that you can go in and change set points, change schedules, look at the alarms, do all that kind of stuff. You also have that large packaged unit that was put in a while ago. That they finally brought that in too. I think the reason that wasn't brought in before was COVID. We had to get a wire all the way across, and couldn't do it. Hey, Ryan. So, and so this is Ryan Street, by the way. I don't know if you guys know Ryan.
We're doing the OR over here and tying into iView stuff to.
Ryan's going to be working with you with Southland Heating, Southland Comfort.
This came from Southland today.
Okay.
So he's going to be doing the wiring for the controls of the OR. Well, that's all going to tie into this as well. So you'll have that OR system as a graphic in here as well once that all gets done. And that's the nice thing about iView. Once you have the server in, we can do anything in the building, any particular controller, as long as we have communication to that system or to that device. We can bring it in, show it as a graphic, bring in all the points of control, all that good stuff. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to set you guys up with a user and a password. It's secure. Right now it's only internal to your network. We can't expose it to the outside. That's up to your IT folks and all that. But right now it's just internal, so it's very secure. You have to be on the network or on a computer that's on the network. Okay. And what I'll do today too, after I get done doing the training with you guys, if you're okay with it, I'll see if I can't use a little memory device or memory stick and grab some of these graphics off of the iView, and I can create a manual for you. That's usually what I do. Is this way you've got something to go back to. So I'll do that before we get done. But basically, the first time you go in, you're going to type in this address. So you're going to open up Chrome or Edge, or whatever you use as your browser. Doesn't matter what browser. You can do this on your phone too, as long as you're on your internal network. You're connected to the Wi-Fi on your network. You can type that IP address in. It's 10.18.4.11. Okay. And so instead of having to remember that all the time, I'm gonna go over here and bookmark it.
Bookmark it.
Yep. And just put it over here. And we want to bookmark this tab, and I'm gonna call it HVAC iView. So now all you gotta do is go to your bookmarks and find that guy, and he's there. Okay. I'm gonna go in as me. We always have a default that we put in here. And then I'm gonna set you guys up with your own set of credentials to go in and access the system. Okay. The first time you go in with a new access, it's gonna ask you, hey, your browser is blocking pop-ups, which basically all these graphics that we're doing in here, they're just a bunch of pop-ups inside this server. Okay, so we're gonna say, yes, I want to allow them. See this little, it's also gonna ask you, do you want to save your password? I'm gonna say never. This little icon up here looks like a page with a little red dot on it. If you click on that and say always allow, that blocking pop-ups will never come back up again. Okay, so just do always allow, hit done, boom, it's gone. And I'll have all this in this manual that I sent for you as well. Okay. So what we try to do in the first screen, the main screen of the system, is we try to do the floor plans as a whole. So basically it's showing you the basement level and the first floor. Hopefully these are close to what they look like physically. Okay, but each one of the rooms is associated with each one of those fan coils. So on a VRF system, you're going to have a fan coil, you're going to have an outdoor unit, and then multiple fan coils coming off that one outdoor unit. You guys familiar with that? Has they gone over that? Okay, on the mechanical side? Yeah, so it's a little bit different than a standard system. You know, we're using one outdoor unit. I can't remember, this is a heat pump or heat recovery. Heat pump would be, you can only do cooling or heating. Heat recovery, you can do both. Yeah, so you can have, so those BCs or those valves that switch over can either be hot gas or refrigerant. So you can have some of them in heating, some of them in cooling off that same outdoor air unit. Okay, condenser. And so that's basically what these bubbles are showing. What these, we call these dynamic temperature indicators. Okay, we kind of got a legend here that shows what's going on in that space. This should be the location or close to the location of where that thermostat is controlling that fan coil unit. Okay? And so if I see a temperature in here and the color is green, like these guys here, that means that the temperature in that space is in between the heating and cooling set point, so it's satisfied. Okay? And we call that ideal. Right? If it's light blue or orange, it could be anywhere from 1/10 of a degree to a degree away in one way or another. If it's light blue, it's cooler in that space by the heating set point more than either 1/10 to a degree. So anywhere between a degree away from the heating or cooling set point, we're going to be either light blue or yellow. Okay, so what I normally say is if it's green, light blue, or yellow, you're in pretty good shape. You're within a degree of where you want to be for that space. Okay, if it's dark blue or orange, that means we could be up to 3 degrees. It's more than a degree away, up to 3 degrees away from whichever set point it might be. If it's orange, it's warmer in there by up to 3 degrees. If it's dark blue, it's cooler in there by up to 3 degrees. So we don't want to see orange or dark blues. In a building where you're doing setback, you know, setting it back at night and then coming back up in the morning, you might see that first time in the morning because we're taking a set point from, let's say, you know, 68 or 70 for heating, and we're bumping it down to 60 or you know, 62 or something. So it might be taking some time to get back up. So you'll see that in the morning. In this particular case, I would imagine you probably don't have a whole lot of scheduling that needs to go on here. Right? It should be probably 24/7, I would think, being a hospital.
The only thing we need to have scheduled is the pharmacy.
Pharmacy. Okay, so you can show me that, and I can schedule that separate. I'll show you how to do all that. Okay. So for the most part, everything else is going to be working off of a normal occupied schedule, being a hospital. Okay, it's not a you know, a commercial you know, a commercial or industrial building where you don't need you know, cooling constantly. And then we show these 2 outdoor air units as well. Okay, and they're bringing in fresh air. So as each one of these fan coils is heating and cooling, it's also getting fresh air into these areas for ventilation, for the amount of outdoor air CFM that you need. Okay, And so if I click on one of these guys, notice it changes, or I hover over it, it changes to a grab icon. So I can click on one of these guys and look at it and see what's going on. So we'll click on IHP 1-14. Okay. That brings me right to the fan coil, and we show a little graphic of that fan coil. Okay. Here's the thermostat. What you're looking at here, notice these color bars. So here's your set point. The set point is 70 to 74. Notice if the temperature is between 70 and 74, it's going to be green. You see this little line right here? That's the actual temperature in the space. Okay. Just moved. Just went down to 69. On these VRF systems, they don't measure a tenth, or they don't show. They actually measure it. So if we were to go in with a tool that we have for setting these things up, we can actually see the tenths of a degree. But all we get from them is degree increments. So when you see something change, it's going to go from 70 to 69 to 68, or vice versa. You're just going to see the whole degree, even though it actually is changing in tenths. Okay. So that room just changed by 1 degree. So that's the actual temperature in the space. It just went into the blue. Okay. And so we want it to be between 70 and 74, which means we should be going into a heating mode here. All right. So eventually we should see this active mode go to heat. This is going to light up kind of orange or red, and we'll see this guy go into a heating mode. Okay. The fan's turning, so we know we're getting airflow into the space. 69 in the space, and we want it to be 70, so we should end up, we'll come back to this and see if he goes into heat. Okay. Some of the other things, what's the schedule? It's occupied. The mode is auto, same here. Active set point is 74, right, for cooling. It's probably, once it goes into heat, that's going to change to 70, because our heating set point is 70, not the cooling set point. I'll talk about these here in a minute when I change a set point, and then it's going to tell you an error code here. Okay, all of these fan coils they've got a ton of error codes that pop up on there, and you can see if there's an actual error in the system. Okay. If I want to change the set point, let's say 70 is too cool for this area, or 74 is too warm for that area. So these little arrows, if I click on this arrow, it's going to open up the set point bar. Okay, now you have 2 bars. The top bar is the occupied set point. The bottom bar is the unoccupied set point. There's that 85 that gentleman was seeing over there. So that's why he's going into the setback mode. So in other than areas like the pharmacy, we probably want to make the unoccupied and the occupied set point the same. Okay. Either that, or we'll just change the schedule so it's always 24/7 in all the areas except for that pharmacy area. Okay. But this is what happens when it goes to the unoccupied mode. It changes from 70 to 74 down to 60 and 85. Spreads that out, and now it's not going to heat and cool until we're above 75 or below 60. Okay. If I want to change the set point, I click on the top bar. The best way to do it is to just grab that green bar and slide it. Notice it changes both of them at the same time. I can type the new ones in, but I want to try to keep about 4 degrees between the two. And we always try to keep about a 4-degree differential between it, so this way you're not heating, then cooling, then heating, then cooling. A lot of people think that makes more sense to keep them closer, and that's good in an environment where there's not people, you know, because we can keep that temperature really close but when there's people there, the problem is you got warm air, then cold air, then warm air, so they're going to feel those drafts, and so they're not going to think it's comfortable, even though we're keeping it right where it needs to be. So if you keep about 4 degrees between the two, that'll keep you where you need to be, and that'll keep people happy. Okay. So if I change that set point, I'm just going to change it by 1 degree. Okay. It's always going to ask you to accept or cancel, so there's always a back door. If I do something and I see this accept and cancel pop up, I just hit cancel. Nothing happens. I'm just working in a server, basically. You know, I'm online. If I hit accept, I send that new set point down to that controller. Okay. So eventually, we're going to see that change to 71, 74. Because the thermostat, and because it's a hospital, you want the ability for somebody to walk up to that thermostat and make that change, right? So if we change the set point, we're doing this as a temporary, hey, let's move this to some value to get them some cooling or heating or something like that. But somebody can walk up to that thermostat and start pressing it. They're going to override that, okay? So if I don't want them to override it for this particular time, I can say set point refresh, click on that, it goes to update, and I hit accept, and now I set that set point until somebody either walks back up to it or it goes in between a mode, like unoccupied to occupied. Okay? So anytime you want to make a set point change from here and you want it to immediately follow that, hit that set point refresh, update, and hit OK or accept. And that'll automatically send that set point down to that controller. We do a lot of schools, and so in a school system we may give somebody a couple of degrees in a classroom, maybe 1 or 2 degrees up and down. But we want to always have the server will be the overriding factor of that classroom, not the teacher. Because a teacher could leave, can go all the way down to 66 or something like that,
Mhm.
cooling in the middle of the summer. All of a sudden, it's cooling to 66 for 8 hours when they shouldn't be doing that. Right? So that's why we always put that there. So really depends. Again, you want your people in the building to have access and to make those set point change controls. This is really going to be somebody calls and says, "Hey, I'm sweating in here. I need somebody to check it." Go in here, set the set point down, hit the update, and it should start working to that cooling set point, regardless of what they did with the thermostat. Okay, so that's a nice little way of overriding it. Right. So now we're controlling the 71 and 75. Okay. And it looks like it's already starting to heat because our temperature here is already starting to come up. All right, and we should see this change to a heating mode in a minute. Since we're integrating to this, we're only getting this data about every 3 minutes. So you have to be patient, unfortunately. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it'll take sometimes up to 3 minutes before you see the actual values change on there. Okay. All right. So I'm going to set it back to where it was, 70 and 74. Hit accept. Update, accept. All right, so that's the process, and now it'll go back to where we have it. Okay. If I want to go back to the main screen, I can go back to the basement level, or I can go back to the hospital, which shows me both. So basically, all we did is we created 2 floor plans, 3 actually. One that shows both, one that just shows the basement, one that just shows the first floor. Okay, but you can look at both of them right here. I can click another guy, go in. And basically I want the temperature to be between the 2 set points. If it's not, let's go ahead and see what we can do to try to make that guy in the green. Okay? All right. If it won't go in the green for some reason, a lot of times you're going to see an error code out here. Okay, and that'll be a call to Dustin, one of those guys I don't know if you guys do your own maintenance, but I would imagine during the warranty period it would probably be a call to them. Okay, to make sure that everything's going. Okay. So they're all pretty much the same. There's not a whole lot of difference to them. They're all going to act pretty much the same, and they're all in, automatic. Okay. There's a couple other things, like I said, these outdoor air units. So if I click on either from here, and I grab one of these guys and click on that outdoor air unit, that's good. No, I'm sorry, that's not the outdoor air unit. That's the condenser. It's going to show me whether there's any alarms out there. And then actually, this is nice for troubleshooting as well. It shows me my discharge and suction temperatures and pressures and all that stuff. So I can see if something's really, my pressure's way down, I know I got a problem, some kind of restriction or something like that. Or if my temperature's way up, I know I got something going on with those units. So you've got some information right here to do some troubleshooting. So I can go in and I can say, okay, I'll show you a little trick. I'm going to click on the basement. Let's say I want the whole basement to go into heating, right, or cooling. I can click on one of these guys, okay? If I open this up and I want to change all the cooling set points at the same time, if I hold down the alternate key and click on that guy, it gives me a list of all the set points that I can control at once. So there's my cooling set point. If I do it again, and I click Find All, there's all the cooling set points. So I can go in here, go down to the bottom and say set them all to 70. And I can set them all to 70 now. Everything goes into cooling. Now I can go into that outdoor section, or the condensing unit, and watch it run in full cooling and see what my pressures and temperatures and all that are. Make sure I got some, I've got good refrigerant and all that stuff going on with that unit. So a nice little feature that you can do. And this is also something you might want to do in the, we start getting into the spring, summertime. You might want to change all these guys down a little bit from 74. 74 seems a little high for a hospital. maybe change them to 70 or 72, and then go in and do the same thing with the heating set points. Bump those down because they're all 70 right now. Bump those down maybe to 68, 67, something like that. Okay. Just be careful with those as far as the values that you're using, because again, the system doesn't have humidity sensors in each one of these areas, but the lower you set that heating set point, the more humidity you're going to add to the space, as you guys know. So I would keep them pretty, close to the 68, 72, 74 mark, somewhere around there. And that'll help you dry that air out even in summertime. Yeah. Okay. Because we want to be able to have, if it goes down below a certain value, we want to get those particles of moisture out of the atmosphere. If we have that heating set point down too low, that's not going to happen. We're going to add more moisture than we want, okay, by overcooling. So just something that you can do, and again, I'll have that in the tutorial I send you to show you the alternate key, some of the little tricks that you can use to set everything up at once. Okay. So that's the outdoor condenser. That's the outdoor air unit. Okay, this guy is also automatic. Basically what we're doing is we're bringing in 100% outside air. We're treating that outside air, right? This is basically your dehumidification mode right here. What's that humidity? Do we need to heat it? Do we need to cool it? So we're doing dehumidification here. We've got an exhaust fan. This is our outside air fan. And then we got a supply fan. And so what we're trying to do then is if that air is dehumidified here, then we're trying to heat it and cool it from this coil. Okay, we're trying to keep a constant set point. It looks like it's about 70, we're about 72 degrees is our set point. Okay, and we're pretty close, 70.7. Okay, there shouldn't be anything you have to change here. The only thing you might want to change, again, this can be lowered a little bit. You just grab that. If 72 is too high, we get into the heat or the cooling season, you want to bump that down just a little bit. Keep in mind that this air is constant fresh air that's being dumped into the corridors and all that of the area. So you don't want to have that drafty either for people. But, being a hospital, as you guys probably know, doctors want it cold, the nurses want it a little warmer. So there's always that fine line of what you're going to do there. Okay, but that's about the only thing you ever have to change here is that set point. Again, I'm just going to hit cancel. So it goes right back to where it was. Okay. If you see any errors on this, there would be a call immediately. We definitely want to know if our outside air is not working, especially in a hospital. We've got to have that ventilated air. So if you pop up any errors or see any red, you'll see an alarm up here, and it'll usually say a code by the alarm. If you see that, that's a call. Pretty quick to get somebody out here, get that working. Okay, and both of them are the same. They're just, again, standalone units that are just basically treating your outside air for the system. Okay, and the other one's exactly the same. You got an outdoor air unit, and so forth. The other unit that we have is that big rooftop. And this guy does have an alarm on. I was looking at this the other day. I don't know what that alarm is. We'll have to look. It's in high cool right now. So we're in high cool. I'm trying to remember where this serves. Do you remember?
That's the nurse's station.
That's the nurse's station, okay. Those have those VAV boxes downstream of them, right? So all we're trying to do is put out a discharge air temperature of 55 degrees, I would imagine. And then the VAV boxes all do their own thing by modulating and reheating and all that stuff.
Is that the one with Rod trying to fix the vent? Okay, so that may be the alarm then. It's a motorized actuator or something he trying to replace?
On the outside air?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, that might be what's going on then. Somebody's got it disconnected and it's saying, hey, I don't have control. There's feedback coming off those actuators that tell it what position it's in.
Yes, sir.
So that might be what it is then.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, because it seems like it's working. What that discharge air is going to do on that unit is it's going to go probably from 65 to 55, depending on how much cooling you need in the space. So it looks at, because there's no connection to those VAV boxes currently, they're all pneumatic, except for the one that we're about to do in the OR. This guy doesn't know what the actual space temperatures are, right? Because those are all just pneumatic temperature sensors and valves. So all it's looking at is its return air and saying, hey, at this return air temperature, do I need to be bringing more cooling into the system or less cooling into the system? So it does a reset on this value. So you'll see this value change based on what the actual demand is in the space. Okay. And then like a day like today in the morning, you're probably going to be using more outside air as your cooling apparatus because it's cold and it's dry outside today. Yeah. So it's a good time to use what we call free cooling or economized cooling. So you're going to be bringing more outside air. Of course, as the day goes on, we get up to 70 degrees, typical, February or March day in the southeast. Those outside air dampers are going to start to back off, and now we're going to start using more mechanical cooling. And you'll have the same thing for the unit. There's another unit that I believe will be brought on when the OR comes in too. We'll bring that system in as well. And so you'll have another unit that looks just like this. It still has pneumatic VAVs off it as well, but we'll have one VAV box at least in OR3 that you'll be able to see, and you'll see the damper move, and you'll see the heater come on and off for dehumidification and all that stuff. The other thing is too, in that OR there's going to be a pressure monitor that the doctors use to measure the pressure in that space. The VAV controller will have a temperature and humidity sensor, so you'll see all that. I don't know how much you guys have as far as decision making as to how those ORs work, but we could put a communicating pressure monitor in there, and you can actually see the pressures too in that space if that's something you want to do. The nice thing about that is, and I'll show you here in a minute, we can trend all this information. And so I could actually write a report in that server that says, give me the temperature, humidity, and pressure of that OR every minute, and write a report for me. So it shows me every minute what the temperatures and humidities and pressures were in that space, and that's a report that you can send to the CDC or whoever needs it. So just something to think about. The spec didn't call for it or anything on the job, but we can put, again, a lot of these devices now come with communication cards in them, so we can bring information in. Something to think about. Okay. But that's the unit that's serving that area, and that's probably what that alarm is. If I wanted to look real quick just to see, I'm going to, instead of going to the graphic, I can go to the Properties tab. And under Control Program, the sub-tab under here, I have this little alarms area. So I can go in here and see unit down to failure is on. It doesn't tell me why. Let's see. I'm going to page down. Yeah, I'm not seeing any major alarms, so there's something not happening, and it very well may be that feedback from that actuator is not there, so that's probably what's going on. So that's where I can go see some alarms. Another thing that I can do is if I click on this guy in the tree here, and I click on the Alarms tab, if there's a major alarm, it might show me up here what it is. Equipment alarm, lock low ambient equipment alarm. That's it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
He
It's
said
saying,
one he ordered, it closes and it does it's reversed, so he
Yes,
had to
it
take
went
it
the wrong way. Yeah.
it's going the opposite way. Yeah, that would do it. Yeah, so we're getting a low ambient temperature. So, and you're probably only getting this alarm when it's cold outside. It's going below what we want it to be. That's exactly what's happening. Okay. All right. So that's graphics basically. You can go around and play in these guys and look at them, and there's all sorts of information that you can see for the different types of equipment that you have and all that. So that's the graphics tab. If I go over to the Properties tab, I was just showing you under Control Program, if I pick a piece of equipment, like if I pick, a fan coil, it tells me how it's enabled. It shows me the set points in a different display. It's going to show me more, along the lines of what my heating capacity set points are. There's just a lot more information in there under set points. If I have humidities and outdoor air temperatures, it shows me any errors or alarms for that particular unit. So it's just a little more data that you can see, not in a graphical format, right? So there's so much information that we have in here. We don't want to clutter a graphic with all that information. So if you wanted to see, go in, kind of tool around and see what's going on with those units and see more data, you can go to the Properties Control Program tab. Okay. All right. Schedules. So the way schedules work right now, looks like we do have a 24-hour schedule in there. If I click on Burke County Hospital, the way schedules are worked, this tree is hierarchical, which means the higher I click in it, if I put a schedule in up here, everything down below should follow that schedule. Okay, so right now, everything's 24/7. It's interesting why that one is going into setback. I'll have to look at it and see. This shows me the schedule. If I click on configure, there's my schedule for Burke County Hospital. If I click on it, it shows me every day of the week. Well, it shuts off for 45 minutes in the evening.
Is that because of the frost mode or something like that, or
It shouldn't be.
I think that's what Dustin told me, is that it shuts off at 11:45, resets all the thermostats to the
So all that's going to do
split
is
mode,
if
and then it goes back
everyone
to manual.
if everyone goes in and changes their set points to whatever they want them to be, if we want to change them back to what iView wants them to be, we would have a quick mode of occupied to unoccupied and then back to occupied. So that's basically what's going on there. Okay, so we'll have to look at that one in that room and find out why we're sending it back to 85 degrees.
That was actually the pharmacy.
That was the pharmacy. Okay, gotcha. So that's the one that we don't want to have a schedule. So what we're going to do, and that was first floor, is that correct?
Yes.
Show me which one that is.
That, let's see, it would be that 69, those 369s right there on the left, the green ones.
Yep.
On the left?
Yes, sir.
Right here?
The,
One,
ver-
two, three.
yes, sir. No, the,
It is all three of those up, and that one above it too.
That one and those two. Gotcha. Right. So here's what we're going to do. We've got 27, 26, and 2. Is that 25? 25. Or 29. I'm sorry.
that's the one for, the, mixing room or whatever it is. Where
Okay.
they
somebody? You want that one? You want to be cold, right? Because it's a lot of work they're doing that one.
come in.
Can I go grab?
Oh, y'all already pulling it?
7, 6, 7, and 9.
HVAC stuff.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on each one of these individually. And I'm going to go into schedules. Okay. And no, it's following that normal schedule now. What I'm going to do is click this little box that says ignore that. And I'm going to add my own schedule here. I'm going to say it's normal, it's weekly. I'm going to even give it a name up there and call it pharmacy. And instead of having that little glitch at the end of the day, I'm going to make this 12 a.m. 12 a.m. So that's always occupied. Okay. All right. And so I hit ignore, it ignores that one and now follows this one. And I'm just going to call this pharmacy.